Modernism was a time in which authors wanted to experiment and create pure feeling and agitation in people's boring, ordinary lives. Modernist writers such as Virginia Woolf, James Joyce, as well as Ernest Hemingway were inspired by the new knowledge of psychology, anthropology, and science. They left the social themes and started to turn inwards on a more individual level. Their ambition was to reproduce the most inner thoughts of a person's mind.
They wanted to expose the subconscious of their characters, which led to developing a new narrative technique. For instance, the interior monologue and the iceberg technique. Modernism was therefore the most popular genre during the 20th century. People were so fascinated by the new genre category in the work of Sigmund Freud, the conscious and the unconscious parts of a person's mind. The Great War broke out within the same period of time. According to history learning site, Wilfred Owen was one of the most well-known writers during this time.
Wilfred Owen was a poet who lived from 1983 to 1918. Owen became an officer even though his father was a railway official from the lower end, and traditionally it was men from the upper end of the middle class that became promoted to officer. But perhaps this experience gave him a non-traditional view of the Great War, since he had already broken one social convention, and that it was most people remember him by, that he revealed the awful truth of the Great War, and he revealed it in his poetry. And in his poetry he reveals the fear, noise and death experienced from the soldier's point of view. But sadly, Owen was killed 1 week before Armistice Day.
Ernest Hemingway was born 1899 in Oak Park, Illinois. After the United States entered the First World War, he joined the Volunteer Ambulance Unit. His most outstanding work is the short novel The Old Man and the Sea, the story of an old fisherman's journey, his long and lonely struggle with the fish and the sea, and his victory and defeat. As a writer, Hemingway liked to portray his characters as macho. Hemingway died in Idaho in 1961.
Aldous Leonard Huxley was born in 1894, Godalming, Surrey. He studied at Oxford University and later moved to Italy. He is mostly known for his novel Brave New World. He was a pacifist and ran many anti-violence campaigns, which made him highly unpopular. For that reason, he chose to move to California. He died in 1963.
Virginia Woolf was born in 1882 in London and was a writer, publisher, and critic. Her notable works were To the Lighthouse, Mrs. Dalloway, Orlando: A Biography, and A Room of One's Own. She debuted with the novel The Voyage Out, which was a Bildungsroman in the traditional manner but with a female protagonist.
During the early 20th century, the modernist writers wanted to experiment and innovate. Virginia Woolf was one of the writers that came up with a unique technique that made sure her readers were agitated by her work and therefore was celebrated as a symbol for modernist fiction.
The 20th century is a period of diversity and multitude of literary styles. In 20th century novel, a different style emerged with more individual themes. Writers found new ways to write and new techniques. The Great Gatsby 1925, written by American writer F. Scott, became a part of American high school curriculum. The Englishman Aldous Huxley also started out writing novels about young people enjoying themselves in their roaring 20s.
William Faulkner was a Nobel Prize-winning American novelist and short story writer. He was born in 1887 and died in 1962. Faulkner is one of the most influential writers of the 20th century and is thought to be the most important innovator of American fiction. Some of Faulkner's achievements are The Sound of Fury, Light in August, As I Lie Dying, and Absalom, Absalom.
In his work, Sartoris, Faulkner created a fictional place, Yoknapataufa County, that he called A Cosmos of My Own. The mythical region became one of America's most famous literary landscapes. William Faulkner is also known for the way he captures a Southern America stained with the dark history of the Native Americans, slavery, and the Civil War.
David Herbert Lawrence was born 11 September 1885 in Nottinghamshire, England. He He was known as a writer, painter, and a poet. He was also known for being one of the first writers who came from the middle class, which was unusual for writers those days. His father was a miner and his mother was a teacher. In his novels, Lawrence used many different psychological aspects of the human mind. This made him even more popular as a writer and influenced many other writers, for example Arthur Lundqvist. Lady Chatterley's Lover is one of the most famous work of D.H. Lawrence. It was banned in the UK due to erotic scenes and became unbanned in 1960. D.H. Lawrence died 2nd March 1930.
Steinbeck was an author born in California in 1902 and died in 1968 in New York City. Grapes of Wrath is a novel he wrote in 1939 and can be linked with the Great Depression. The novel Grapes of Wrath is based on how the seek of a better life is not always going to be fulfilled in the USA, and sometimes the American dream will not always be achieved. The novel Grapes of Wrath is one of his most successful novels. It brought him fame and a Nobel Prize. In John Steinbeck's early writings are the novels quite romanticized and less sentimental. This type of tone in writings is kept later in his novels too.